540 ESPN.
Stand back! There's a hurricane coming through.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com, also on Blog Talk Radio and PWRshow.com. Damian Nelson here along with David Hero. We're live Wednesday night, September what is today? 22nd? 23rd? 22nd. We'll go with that. September 22nd, 2010. And we are very pleased to welcome our guest appearing for the first time on this program, Hurricane Helms. Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
It's a tremendous evening here in Milwaukee.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
And Milwaukee is patiently waiting for Hurricane Helms.
Saturday, December 4th.
Yeah, I'll be coming that way December 4th. So
Blizzard Brawl.
It's going to be a pretty interesting trip.
Blizzard Brawl always is interesting.
Well, here's the thing.
The
Hurricane's actually flying from Japan.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the itinerary as it stands now. I'll be flying from Japan, flying right into Milwaukee to make this show.
See, that's the love that the Hurricane has for all of his fans.
Well, a lot of our fans have been asking for you to be on the show for a very long time. A lot of questions that they have sent in. Basically, let's answer most of them by you just updating the world on what you've been up to since we last saw you in WWE. What is occupying your time nowadays in the world?
Well, actually, I got a lot of side projects that I wanted to do while I was with WWE, but as most anybody that ever has worked there would tell you, they really handcuff you sometimes on what you're allowed to do. So certain things that I wanted to do and I wasn't allowed to do, now I'm pursuing, and I'm still doing a lot of indie shots. I'm booked pretty much every weekend unless I want time off. Mm-hmm. So anybody that wants to come see me, you can go to GregoryHelms.com or ShowNells.com. They're both the same site, and my appearance section is pretty booked up. So.
You allude to an interesting point about what you may or may not be allowed to have done while you were in WWE. They found out last week that they're being investigated by the state of Connecticut for their classification of the wrestlers as independent contractors versus employees. Not sure what you've heard about that, but it's been pretty controversial, and all this sort of stemming from Linda McMahon's Senate run. But a pretty dicey story, one that could become very interesting if WWE is forced to change that classification. What insight or thoughts do you have on that situation?
I can see both sides of it, to a degree. The way they treat us, the restrictions that they place on us are restrictions that you give to an independent contractor. And for those that might be listening and might not understand exactly what an independent contractor is, it's basically like, say you want some work done in your house and you hire somebody to do this. Mm-hmm. You independently contract them that's got to do your work on your house. And all you really can control is what he does with you, right?
Right.
Because it's just an independent contractor. But WWE places all these other rules on you, like you can't work for anybody else, you can't do this, you can't do that, which are rules that really shouldn't apply to an independent contractor. It's rules that should apply to an employee. But the reason they do that is so that they don't have to give us health and benefits, they don't have to do Social Security taxes. It's the only reason they do that is just to benefit themselves and really not to no benefit whatsoever to the independent contractors at all.
That's pretty much the way we've seen it as well. Just to be, not pandering, but it's been something we've talked about on this program for a long time. Where, and that's a good analogy you use, because independent contractor is something that's pretty widely used, and people contract out their services, but they're not tied to any type of agreement or anything like that, where they can't go out and do something else or do work for anyone else and then not be so restrictive in what their requirements are to be that independent contractor.
The carpenter Hurricane's talking about should be able to go and fix the door at Titan Towers and then go on to TNA and help him with the ring if you wanted to, if he's a truly independent contractor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's not an independent contractor. It's an exclusive contract. And those are independent and exclusive are two entirely different words. They aren't synonyms at all. You're not an independent contractor. You're signed to an exclusive contract, and you're an employee, but without employee benefits.
one argument that's been made to this point into this investigation is that WWE does not force anyone to sign the contracts that they put out. They actually went as far as to say in their statement about this investigation that on average, the WWE superstars make about $550,000 a year, and on average...
I'm going to tell you right now, that's total bullshit. That's the biggest fucking lie I've ever heard them say. Well, I ain't going to say it's the biggest lie I've ever heard them say, but that's a monstrous lie. And I'm going to tell you why they're able to say what they're doing is there's maybe on average because they're comparing, like, top guy salaries, but, like,
see, that's what I told you.
What the lower card guys and mid card guys and upper mid card guys pay is nothing compared to what that 1% of the top guys do.
When you get one guy making $20 million and another guy making $75,000, that's how it.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing with the youth movement. They bring these guys up from SCW because they're paying them beans. Some of these guys are getting $300 a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking, and that's before taxes. Or $300 or $500 a week, and that's before taxes. So after taxes, you're talking about McDonald's money.
Yeah.
And these guys are going out there destroying their bodies. I mean, and and I'm not saying that like because I'm bitter. I'm telling you that's a fucking fact. That's a fact. And because there was a time like right when I came back, and I'm just doing the announcing gig while I'm not doing house shows because I'm doing this backstage announcing gig, which, I wanted to do that for like 2 weeks and get right back to work. But in their infinite wisdom, they thought they had to reintroduce the Hurricane, even though people would chant my name every fucking time they saw me. So I'm not sure exactly why you got to reintroduce somebody that they already know, but, sometimes it's hard to fight the system.
Yep.
But like if you're making like on that, with that type of schedule, when you're traveling, and you got to be bringing home 4 figures to make anything.
Very insightful conversation. We're going to take a time out, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about David Hero actually recognizing you recently for one of the top 10 promos ever cut, and more here on the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN.
And back. There's a hurricane coming through.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com and on PWRshow.com and also on Blog Talk Radio. Damian Nelson here along with David Hero and our guest right now, Hurricane Helms. Thank you for joining us here on the Pro Wrestling Report. Obviously, a lot to say, and we were talking about the comments of Robert Zimmerman, WWE's spokesperson, about this whole independent contractor versus worker situation. And the first thing he said was about how much the average WWE wrestler makes, and then said that they work no more than 3 days a week.
That's crazy because nine times out of 10 you're doing 3 house shows a week and you do one TV day, so that's 4 right there.
Right,
and that doesn't include travel.
Yeah, and then sometimes they throw these stupid travel days on you that they don't pay you any more for. That you incur the expense of rental cars and hotels, and they don't pay you nothing extra for it.
So let's say these NXT guys, let's say because they're still under a developmental deal, getting between $300 and $500 a week. But they'll pay for their hotels, but they make them all share rooms. Right, and their rental car as well.
And they share them rental cars, and then I know, when they have guys like Kali and Kozlov and these guys that can't drive, they'll force these other guys to drive them around.
So there's a chance.
There's guys that it's basically was their job just to drive Kali around, and that's the only reason they even bought the TV was to drive him around because he can't drive.
And it's funny because a lot of people who have never been in the business and may even want to get into the business think that life on the road is very glamorous. It doesn't sound like it is.
No, I mean, of course not. You know, travel is the worst part. I mean, I would say injuries are the worst part of the business, and travel is right up there with it. And I don't want to come off as bitter because I loved being there. But it's just a different company now as when I got there. It's almost black and white as far as how it's run, the backstage environment, everything. And I loved the first 9 years I was there. This last year I was there, and that ECW run was just total misery. And but the travel was very hard, and like air travel is not good for your body. So if you're hurt at all and you're in an airplane, that just makes it worse. That just being on the road is hard. It's a hard life. It's not easy at all.
And you suffered injuries, of course, throughout your career. One major one during your final years in WWE. Do you feel WWE gave you the proper treatment upon your return?
No, not at all. No. And that's something I will discuss in more detail. How I had a storyline totally stolen from me by a top guy. It was totally over. And I'm working on a shoot interview which we're going to produce to the Hardy show. Excellent. And Shannon, we all came up, and that's why it's taking. Normally when some guy leaves WWE, they got this like real shoot interview coming out really quick.
Right.
We're actually going to do a top notch one that includes early matches and all kinds of other stuff in there. And I really get into that. How I was flown to Titan Towers, discuss the storyline with them. We were going to do it. The next thing I know, that storyline was taken from me, and somebody else was doing it.
Wow.
And
well,
if you're smart enough, you might can figure out who it is.
I would imagine the list of possible people is pretty short, maybe 3 or 4 long.
And so, until here's something right there. Like I asked them, like just give me a month's notice of when I can come back, because at this point I'm in my 20th year.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go out there and just be bumping every day and be ready.
Right.
That's just physically impossible. At 20 years of doing this to your body, can you go out there and just be bumping in the ring every day for no money just to be ready? I say, so give me a month, let me know, and I'll be ready. When I debuted on TV against MVP, they told me at 3 o'clock that afternoon.
Really?
Yeah, like that's how seat of the pants it all was.
Wow.
And so I'd been out there, I hadn't been in the ring, hadn't done anything, and and most people was like, you look like you hadn't missed a step, but I felt like I missed a step, but like how could you not? Like,
right.
Anybody else was given, all this kind of like comeback and stuff like that, but it's just really odd.
And you've heard a lot of stories about how great WWE is at planning and how things are written or planned 3 to 6 months in advance. Doesn't seem like that's the case so much anymore.
No, it's just like that's how. When I first got there, and for the first 5, 6, 7 years, it was like that. Like, everything was just so organized, but now it's a disaster up there. Like every show's rewritten. Like that day, I cannot tell you how many times we get there and the show's just been wholly redone that afternoon.
And this past Monday night's Raw scored a 2-year low rating for WWE.
Yeah, I was talking about this yesterday on my Twitter.
Oh, you were.
At Hurricane Helms, shameless plug. We're just talking about, because they got this whole youth movement thing. When I watch WWE, I want to see the biggest stars in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see a bunch of guys I don't know. And that's they tried the youth movement in WCW. It was a miserable failure.
Right.
Anytime they've ever tried it, they can't just bring in a whole bunch of. That's not what people watch this for. They watch the best.
And the point.
And it's the same thing in any sport. Like if you watch football and they take out all the starters and put in a bunch of guys that have never played before, it ain't gonna do well. I guarantee you, the UFC was the fastest growing sport in the world. They can have a pay-per-view this week. If they don't use any of their stars, it's not going to draw well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what they're doing there. But a lot of it's because of business. They don't have to pay those guys no money, so they bring them all in, and they're saying it's a youth movement, but it's not. It's just another way to scam money off the boys.
Well, Shane, you can tell it's different because one of my favorite promos was you and The Rock when you guys had that 3 or 4 week back and forth. How you could beat the Scorpion King, and you guys played off each other. Now Randy Orton or John Cena or Triple H, they won't do that with anybody else.
No, and then too, it was only supposed to be that 1 week. That was going to be that 1 week in Toronto, I believe, that they paired us together.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody had to tell us what to say. We just went there and we did what we did, and they loved it. Kevin Dunn, who's of course the main producer there.
Yeah.
He just raved about it, and so that's what led into this and everything that followed. And Rocky was just one of the most I don't know how he was in the years before, and just because I wasn't there and didn't work with him, but, I mean, as far as everything I did with him, he was just the most selfless guy ever. It was all him, wanting to push me because he saw something.
We have a chat room going on at our website right now, pwrshow.com, and username Leader of the Flock says, Helms is one of the unappreciated stars in the business.
I won't disagree with that.
We just got about 2 minutes left. I want to ask you a couple quick things as we complete this here, and it is Hurricane Helms on Twitter, at Hurricane Helms, and GregoryHelms.com. Obviously, you're close to him, and obviously there's not much he could say, but there's been a lot of controversy going on with Matt Hardy right now. Is there anything you care to say to the world listening out there right now? Reference Matt Hardy.
I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of the dirt sheets that really bash him, and I don't know why guys do that. It's never good for the business to tear it down. We have enough enemies outside of the business,
right?
So as it is. So I don't know why guys. Well, I mean, I know they're trying to get hits and all this kind of stuff, but I know there's way more to the story. There's a lot going on to that story, and the fact of the matter is, they've abused that guy for years. They've treated him like. I'll be PG on the show, but they treated him, well, let me start now. They treated him like garbage for years, man. I mean, it's just, the fact that he hasn't snapped way before this, and I ain't saying he snapped now, but I was ready to flip my lid that whole last year. I was there, so I can't imagine just the nonsense he constantly has to do. I mean, when you're constantly putting over guys that are nowhere near your caliber of talent, they don't sell tickets, they don't sell merchandise, they don't offer basically nothing other than the fact that the company doesn't have to pay him, and that's why they're pushing him. I mean, it wears you down. And I mean, he did it. I was there for almost 10 years, and it drove me nuts. And he was there a couple years before me.
Right.
So he still just has so much to offer. Such a talented guy who has helped so many people. I mean, he never does bad stuff. He's not, back there in secret meetings with Vince, burying other talent just so he can keep his spot.
Yeah.
He has given so much, and I can't say enough about that guy, man. And that's not just because he's my friend. That's actually one of the reasons why he's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
He's done that from day one.
Hurricane Helms, it's been a very insightful conversation with you, one that I hope we can actually have again here soon and give some more time here. But we are out of time for right now. We will be seeing you at Blizzard Brawl 6, which is Saturday, December 4th here in Milwaukee. The website is blizzardbrawl.com. You are on Twitter, at Hurricane Helms on Twitter, and your website, GregoryHelms.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with us.
Oh, let's do it again, guys.
This is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN.